Hey guys, welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be looking at dividing numbers. So going to start off with a nice easy one. We're going to look at a number such as this, 3,875, and we're going to divide that by a single digit. That digit will be 5. This will be a nice easy one. Now, often when you're looking at dividing by a number, particularly one-digit numbers, it's sometimes nice to put them into these divisional brackets. Now, you may remember the terminology of long division. We're going to be looking at a method called short division. I don't really see a point anymore of long division, except if you're doing more challenging questions later on with things that you probably won't understand right now. But, okay, so what I'm going to ask myself for this question, look at seeing how many times will 5 go into 3? Well, 5 does not go into 3. I could put a 0 there, but I'm not going to bother. I'm now going to ask myself, how many times does 5 go into 38? Well, 5 goes into 38 7 times, because 7 times 5 is 35. However, that does mean we have 3 left over. So you can stick up a little 3 there, and that now makes my next number being not just 7, it makes it being 37. I'm going to ask that same question again. How many times does 5 now go into 37? Well, it goes in 7 times again, because 7 times 5 is 35, but this time it means that there are 2 left over. Now, the very last question I'm going to ask is how many times does 5 go into 25? And it goes into 25 5 times. Therefore, the answer to my question, how many times is 5 going to 3,875? The answer is 775 times. An added bonus to this would be, how do I know that it goes into that number exactly? Well, because it ends in a 5. And remember, if it's divisible by 5 exactly, it either ends in a 5 or a 0. So that's a nice easy one just to start ourselves off with. Okay, let's up the ante just a little bit, number 2. Let's say 3,876, and we're going to divide this number by 4. You might like to pause it at this stage and have a crack at this question, and then you can go through it with me. Okay, so what I'm going to start off by doing is by putting the 4 into my divisional sign, as you can see, 3876. I'm going to start by saying, how many times does 4 go into 3? Well, it doesn't go in evenly, or doesn't even go in fact. So I'm going to extend that and say, how many 4s go into 38? Well, 9 4s are 36, which means there would be 2 left over. How many 4s go into 27? Well, 6 4s are 24, 7 4s are 28. Okay, so it's got to be the 6. 6 4s are 24, which means that there are 3 left over. How many 4s go into 36? Well, 9 goes in exactly. Therefore, the answer to my problem is going to be 969. Okay, and that goes in evenly, as you can see. So 2 relatively easy ones to start off with. Let's have a crack at number 3. We're going to make it a little bit more difficult this time. We're going to say 4,625 divided by 3. Now, hopefully you might recognize that this will not go exactly, because it would have to be either a 5 or basically a 5 if it was going to go in exactly, but it's not. We're dividing it by 3. That won't work. So we're going to start exactly the same way though. Put it into my divisional signs. Okay, I'm going to be doing our short division again. So how many 3's go into 4? Well, this time it goes in once with 1 left over. How many 3's go into 16? Well, 3 times 5 is 15. Again, we've got 1 left over. How many 3's go into 12? Well, it goes in exactly 4 times. Nothing left over. How many 3's go into 5? Well, I have 1, but now I've got 2 left over. Now, you may sometimes write this remainder 2. Now, if you're in high school, I highly urge you never to do that. What I'd like you to write is saying, well, there is 2 left over, but you're dividing it by 3, or we can say there's 2 left over out of 3, and so my answer becomes 1,541 and 2/3. Okay, now you could write that as a decimal, which I'm going to show you how to do in the very next question. However, the easiest is writing as a fraction. If it doesn't say, choose the fraction because it's so much easier. Okay, my next one, Is that number 4? I think it's number 4. Yeah, it's number 4. We'll say 3, 7, 6, 2. And I'm going to divide this again by 3. All right. So likewise, we're going to put our division signs 3, 7, 6, 2. Again, you might recognize that it's not going to go in evenly. Okay, well, I don't think it will. Let's see. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 7 2 times. 2 3s are 6. 1 left over. 3 goes into 16. Well, it goes in 5 times because 5 times 3 is 15. 1 left over. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Okay, that does go in exactly. How do we know that? I should look at this beforehand. 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 2 is 18. If you can divide that number by 3 evenly, it means it goes in evenly. Look at that. Okay, that's not the question I wanted, but however, we'll still go with the next one. Alrighty, let's go with number 5 now. Hopefully this one will be the one I would like. 3, 7, 2, 5, 5 divided by 3. Again, if you wanted to check if it goes in evenly, 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17, 22. 22 divided by 3 is not going to be exact, therefore it's going to be the question I want. It doesn't go in exactly. Okay, so how many times does 3 go into 37,255? Now, what I'm going to be doing for this question is showing you how to write it with a decimal as a remainder. Okay, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 7 2 times with 1 left over, 3 goes into 12 4 times, 3 goes into 5 once with 2 left over, 3 goes into 25 8 times with 1 left over. Now, I could write it that way if I was doing my fraction, but how would I do it as a decimal? Well, we're going to do it exactly the same way. Okay. In fact, what I might just do, I'm just going to take that off. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to put a point and a 0, 0, 0. Now I could keep on putting as many zeros as I wish there, or however many I'm going to need to have. I'm going to put the 0 there. So instead of saying, in this case, we have 4, so 1 left over, so 1 out of 3, I'm going to carry the 1 here. And now I'm going to keep on going. 3 goes into 10, or goes in 3 times with 1 left over. 3 goes into 10, 3 times with 1 left over. 3 goes into 10, 3 times with 1 left. You see what's going to happen there? It's going to keep on being exactly the same thing, which means we could write the answer as 12,418.3 with a little dot above, which means it is a recurring number. And remember, originally what we had there was 1/3, and that's because 1/3 is the same as 0.3 recurring. Okay, so you can do it that way as a decimal as well. Now the very last question I'm going to show you is number like this. We're going to say 1276 divided by, let's say, 12. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of different strategies. Now the first one, what we could do is just do exactly the same as what we were doing before. It's going to be a little bit more challenging because now we're looking at how many times 12 goes into 1. Doesn't go. How many times does 12 go into 12? Well, it goes in once exactly, nothing left over. How many times does 12 go into 7? Well, no times. How many times does 12 go into 76? Well, 12 goes into 76. Let's have a look. We'll go in 6 times because 6 12s is 72, which means we got 4 left over. So I can write it that way there. Or we might be able to also write it as 106 and 1/3 because 4/12 is the same as what 1/3 is going to be. Okay, I did say though, didn't I, that there was another way you could do that. Now, if you don't like dividing by numbers like double digits like 12, sometimes if you can do it, we can actually halve both these numbers. Half of 12 is 6. Half of 76 was 38. So I'm going to look at 638 and I'm going to divide this number by, what do you reckon? Well, hopefully you guessed it. I'm going to divide it by 6. Now let's see if that works the same way. 6 goes into 6, 3, 8. Well, 6 goes into 6 once. Kind of same over here. Exactly. 6 goes into 3 0 times. Same as over here. 6 goes into 38, well, 6 times. With how many left over do you think? Well, it's 6 6s are 36, so 2 left over. So 2 over 6, which is going to be the same as 106 and 1 over 3. And look at that. They're the same answer. So sometimes, if you can halve the number, if you do it to both of those numbers there, it's actually going to generate the same answer. So a little bit of a trick for you. Okay, guys, I hope you found this a little bit useful. Practice your dividing by numbers. Of course, you can use your calculator there to help you to check your answers, but certainly have a crack at your short division. Best of luck.